Today, we're diving into a really powerful story about ambition, what it can really cost you, and the pretty surprising ways we can find peace. It's called The Go-Getter's Dilemma. But here's the thing. We're not starting at the beginning. Nope, we're starting right here, at the end of a long, hard road to what looked like success. We're in a hospital room, and that beeping monitor, it's spitting out a diagnosis that has absolutely nothing to do with a quarterly report. Cardiac instability. So, how on earth did we get here?
And this quote, this is the heart of the whole puzzle. A life that to everybody else looked like a total victory, but on the inside, it was being fueled by something really, really negative. That conflict is what this whole story is about.
Okay, so let's talk about this price of success. And to do that, we have to meet the man at the center of all this, Richard. Let's see him in his natural habitat, the corporate battlefield.
You know, it's kind of fascinating how the labels for the exact same kind of drive can change over time, isn't it? When he was a kid, everyone praised him for it. He was a go-getter. But then you get into the professional world, and suddenly that same energy earns you different titles. A disruptor, a climber. See how those words have a much sharper edge to them? And this is what being a climber really looked like day to day. Meetings weren't discussions, they were battles he had to win. If something failed, it was always someone else's fault. Every person, every relationship, it was just another rung on the ladder to his one and only goal, become the youngest CEO. It was a completely ruthless, all-consuming mission.
But that just begs the question, right? Why? What was fueling this relentless, almost desperate need to win at all costs? Well, to figure that out, we have to go back, way back, past the boardroom and into the echoes of his childhood.
And it all comes down to his father. Turns out, Richard's entire career, his entire life's philosophy, was a reaction against what he saw as his dad's biggest failure, being too passive, always getting passed over, never climbing that ladder.
Just imagine being a little kid, hiding in the other room, and you hear your mom say this about your dad. These are the words that filled his house after his father missed out on another promotion. The shame, the anger in her voice. It was a powerful, and honestly, a terrible lesson for a child to learn.
And his father's response? It was gentle. It was basically a plea for peace, a way of saying, don't let what other people think define how you feel inside. But for young Richard, who had just heard his mother's rage, those quiet words of wisdom, they were completely drowned out by the storm.
So instead, Richard made a quiet promise to himself. He wasn't just going to try to succeed. He was going to build his entire life on one single idea. He would never be passed over. He would never, ever be the loser. And what he built, what psychologists would call a coping mechanism, was incredibly powerful. You see, his ambition wasn't really about getting a corner office. It was a psychological shield. It was a way to just run as fast as he possibly could from the painful memory of being that kid, hearing those words.
Which brings us right back to where we started. Back to that hospital room, the beeping monitor, that sterile smell. This is the moment where that shield he built finally cracks, and his past collides with his present in the form of a doctor's diagnosis.
And here it is, the truth, laid bare. The doctor's trying to treat a physical problem, his heart. But Richard is finally, for the first time, seeing the real cause. It wasn't just the long hours or the stress. It was the decades he'd spent frantically running from his own past.
The doctor's advice is pretty standard. Take some pills, try meditation, manage your stress. But Richard knows, deep down, his problem is so much more complicated than that. I mean, can a prescription really heal a wound that goes this deep?
And in this moment of just profound honesty, he admits it, out loud. He doesn't just put up with stress, he seeks it out. He creates the chaos because in some twisted way, that frantic energy is what helps him feel good and escape. The stress had become his drug.
Just hearing himself say that out loud, it changes something in him. In the doctor, who starts talking about his own passion for his work, he accidentally becomes a teacher. You know that old saying, the teacher arrives when the student is ready? Well, for the first time in his life, Richard was finally ready to listen.
This realization just shatters his whole world. That singular goal he'd been chasing his entire life, youngest CEO, suddenly seems so hollow, and it forces him to face a new and honestly a terrifying question. What does a successful life even look like?
Just look at this breakdown. It's a total reversal. On one side, you've got Richard, the winner.
motivated by running away from his past, and he ends up with cardiac instability. On the other side, his father, the loser in his mom's eyes. He was motivated by doing what he loved, and he found peace. It really makes you ask, who's the real winner here?
And here's one last, really poignant little detail about his parents today. His mom, she still says his dad's passion is just wasting his time. But at the same time, she's in the kitchen making healthy snacks for those very same kids he teaches. Her actions kind of betray her words, don't they? Those old family dynamics, they are so hard to break.
So Richard leaves that hospital with a completely new perspective. He knows what he needs to do to find that peace his father has, but he's built this whole life, this whole identity as the winner. He has a reputation. And the story leaves us right here with this question. Knowing the truth is one thing, but finding the courage to actually change, that's a whole different ballgame. What would you do